Okay, let's get started, and let me first wish you a good morning or even afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to attend today's webcast, Optimize Lead Quality with Scoring. My name is David Balzik, I'm the managing partner at Consulta, and I will be hosting today's webcast. Now, today's session will focus on importance of lead scoring in B2B marketing, with a particular emphasis on how targeted scoring accelerates follow-up and boosts engagement at the end of the day to help us achieve more. I hope that this webcast provides you with fresh ideas, valuable insights, and best practices that can be applied to your market and your marketing efforts. Now, of course, if you have any questions or comments, please post them to the Q&A board. So we will monitor the board and respond to questions at the end of each section. Now, let me just first start, with a couple of troubleshooting tips. If you have any issues with the content stream, please rejoin the meeting. That usually helps. For the audio stream, it will stream via computer speakers. Please check if your speakers are unmuted. Should you hear an echo or a background noise, please put your microphone on mute and or rejoin the meeting. So rejoining the meeting can actually solve a lot of problems. Questions posed into the Q&A board as mentioned before, and if you for some reason drop off the call or get disconnected, this also happens in the virtual world, please rejoin the meeting and everything should be fine. Now, for those of you who are new to our webcast, maybe just to give you a very quick overview about who we are and what we are doing. We are a performance marketing agency that works primarily with IT and tech companies. I would say that we are very active in the area of, or let's say in the region of EMEA, so pretty much Western Europe, Central Eastern Europe, and Middle East and Africa. We work very closely with, let's say, partner ecosystem of different vendors. And we are in this business for the last almost 9 years. Now, I don't want to hijack our meeting with the rest of the information about who we are and how great we are at what we are doing, because I don't think that this is the main reason why we gather today. Now, in terms of the agenda or the topics for the next 25 minutes, and we really want to keep this webcast short and concise, that has been also the feedback of many of you when we send our poll email out, or let's say we asked you to vote, for the topics that you would like to hear. So for today, I want to start with what is lead scoring and why does it matter to you? So let's say with some basics, and the reasons why you should actually consider it for your organization. Then we'll move into a bit more complex topic, which is the lead journey, and also try to show lead scoring in action. And then for the last, let's say, core topic, we want to have a quick sneak peek into also AI and how AI is boosting lead scoring. That now we are in the era of AI everywhere, and of course, scoring is also one of the topics, where we are seeing a lot of traction also with different AI tools, and models and even agents, that are popping up in the market. Now, at the end, we also have a bit of a wrap up, which is more about like, okay, what can be done, to kind of also get you on the right track or support you, with some of the insights that we're going to share today. But yeah, let's just kind of bear up to this point, and then we'll share more details also on that one. Now, let's get started, with the first one. And for those of you who are new to lead scoring or did not have, let's say, have not tried it, tested, or considered it, for your marketing efforts, let's start with the basics. Now, in a nutshell, the main goal of lead scoring is to actually remove subjective bias on marketing and sales activity. Now, when I say subjective bias, you probably came across a discussion either with your sales colleagues, or I would say if you're in sales with your marketing colleagues, where you're discussing the outcomes or results of the latest campaign that you were running on a particular topic. And then I would say your sales colleagues are saying something, like, what? These are actually not leads, there are people that are never answering our emails or picking up the phone. Even we check their webpage, it does not look very impressive. I'm not sure that, let's say, such leads or, let's say, organizations can afford our service. Or, like sometimes, the feedback would be, I checked the lead, the job function, the seniority, and it didn't look good. So I was even not following up. There's no phone number, not worth of chasing. Looks like a competitor, spam, fake contact info. They're not the decision makers. company looks too small or too big, not our type, they don't respond to my first email, not interested, and many more. So in a way, what we want to achieve with lead scoring is to remove this subjective bias in like, I check them, they don't look good, or their web page does not look very impressive, the job function does not seem very promising. So, and start relying more on data. So in a nutshell, that's the main idea of lead scoring. So in a way, we want to replace this gut feeling about a lead's maturity and of course buying intent, and use data that we collected in this journey of lead generation or all the interaction we had with the lead, and eventually prioritize those leads that are most likely to convert. So I would say it's basically an activity that is mutually beneficial for sales and marketing, because to some extent, for marketing, it gives a very good input into like whether things that we are doing are the right ones. And for sales to basically focus on potential buyers, not browsers, because there are also people, like that would in a way interact with your campaign because they're just preparing their PhD or like their thesis, they're collecting as much information and materials on the topic. And to some extent, they want to, they basically downloaded something from your campaign or registered for something. Now, does your business need it? That's a good question. I would say yes. Look, as a marketing agency, a performance marketing agency, we work primarily on lead generation. We don't do branding. We don't do fancy logos and stuff. We are there, to generate leads. And 99% of our clients are IT or tech companies. So in tech, typically, we are not selling things that are very simple or easy to understand. So typically, the buying process is a bit longer than, for example, selling shoes. I'm exaggerating a bit, but that's the reality. So at the end of the day, there are more touch points needed. Now, each and every touch point is also a piece of information that kind of combines the overall puzzle of the lead's interest. Now, if your sales process is, I even put here like longer than a week, you for sure need it. If your sales process requires multiple touch points, what are touch points? For example, if your sales colleagues are saying, hey, we need to kind of jump on at least 5 meetings, or 3 meetings, like to actually properly position our solution, that's a longer sales process. Then, of course, you cannot waste your time to focus on unqualified prospects, because when you pass your leads to sales, they somehow, the stream becomes one-on-one. And when it's one-on-one, that means, like that your sales colleagues have to focus on each lead individually, and this consumes a lot of time. And if it consumes a lot of time on a one-on-one basis, it consumes a lot of money. Now, the goal is to say like, look, okay, dear sales, we generated 100 leads, but we don't want you to kind of focus on all 100. We want you to focus only on 20, because these 20 are actually, in a way, indicating, with their behaviors, with all the data that has been collected, they're indicating much higher level of interest. So focus on this 20 on a one-on-one basis, and for the rest, we'll kind of keep nurturing them, and make sure, that you get them when they're warm enough. Now, who is lead scoring for? Again, companies with longer or complex sales cycle, and companies, that actually need to align also marketing and sales activities. So if I would say your answer the answer to the questions that are here, or pretty much the statements that are here, is yes, we have a longer sales cycle. Yes, our solution is not very straightforward, so it's not that the clients get it, after the first meeting and they're ready to sign. Then it's going to be beneficial for your organization. Now, some of you, of course, those of you who are a bit more, let's say, experienced, and they have certain, already kind of in this market for some time, you might say, but that's nothing new. Even before, we have been using, some models, some frameworks, that allowed us to qualify leads. And most of you are probably going to refer to Bant, because that's one is, let's say, the most solid, and it's out there in the market for quite some time. Now, I would, to some extent, even say that scoring also considers Bant. Of course, it does, but it's not appropriate or fully appropriate for what we are doing today with mostly digital marketing, and when interactions with prospects to some extent are omnichannel. Why is that? Look, BANT framework has been developed in 1950s. Just read this again, 1950s. So this is literally 70 years ago. 70 years ago, there was no marketing, digital marketing, sorry, there was no digital marketing, there was no omnichannel. People were mostly meeting face to face or they were interacting over the phone. So it requires a bit more, let's say, a bit different approach. And it also requires, I would even say, a bit more comprehensive approach. So what does comprehensive approach means? Is basically, it means, to leverage the signals or data points that are available to us today. 70 years ago, there was no internet. So, I mean, of course, there was no internet, there were no digital marketing campaigns. So there was only that much that you could attach or collect or capture about each and every prospect. Now today, again, with omni-channel interactions, with people spending more and more time online, with people engaging, with different companies through different channels, it requires a bit broader view. And this broader view is actually typically about 3 or actually 4 different 3+1 categories. The first one was demographic, because all of them to some extent are indicating the readiness or maturity of the lead. Now, the first one is demographic. And this one is quite standard, I would say. It's about job function, it's about seniority, it's about department, it's about decision-making influence. To some extent, I would even say for those of you who are basically in marketing, that this is what you would typically collect with a form on your landing page. Name, surname, job function, job seniority, company, even like maybe company name, phone number, email, etc. Now, then we have the second category is firmographic. This is more about the company the lead works with. So it's about the company size, it's about the company industry, it's about company maturity. Is it like a company that is very digital savvy, or is a company that's a bit more traditional? So this actually adds additional pieces of puzzle. And then we have behavioral. Now, what are behavioral? This is like how people engage with, let's say, our marketing activity. Are they actually consuming everything that we share with them? Do they open every email? Do they check every email? Do they consume every email that we share with them? How quickly are they interacting, to all the, let's say, activities or all the comms that we are pushing towards them? So in a way, we want to see, we want to collect those behavioral signals, and on the basis of, let's say, some historical data, in a way, evaluate, whether their behaviors are indicating high level of interest, moderate level of interest, or very small level of interest, or even weak level of interest. And then, of course, we are in IT, we are in tech. So there are always, and this is not relevant just for tech, of course, even if you are not in IT or tech, like this, there would always be some company-specific signals. Now, what are company-specific signals? These are let's say, hidden gems, that typically indicate whether an organization is a good fit for your solution. So what is their current tech stack? Let's say that you're a very strong Microsoft partner. And you probably agree with me that if somebody is already using M365, so Microsoft Productivity Suite, that they might be a bit better candidates for, I don't know, Azure, than somebody that is not that familiar with Microsoft stack or do not have such capability and capacity in their organization. So in a way, these are all these hidden gems, that you could also in a way capture that make the company even more relevant for what you're offering to them. Okay, so let's say that we have now this BANT expand a bit, like it's not just about budget, authority, need, and time, but there's also some other signals that are super relevant and important. Now, the question here is, okay, how to make sure, that we, in a way, successfully capture all of that. And here is where we basically go to the lead journey. So there are basically a couple of prerequisites that have to be in place in order to be able to score your leads. Now, the first is the lead journey. So what is the lead journey? Is in a way, what is the journey that you would like all your leads to go through? Okay, there's the initial conversion on the landing page, or there's attendance of the event, but there's also some follow-up we want to run. So all these steps define your lead journey. Now, you cannot do lead scoring if you're not running nurturing streams today, because that's simply a must for B2B marketing campaigns. Now, why is this important? Because nurturing stream is, of course, about additional touch points. It's about engaging your prospects, with additional pieces of information that you want to communicate to them. And of course, from the scoring perspective, each and every step, each and every touch point is, at the end of the day, it's basically another, let's say, point of collecting some additional information, some signals that I was mentioning before, which are going to complement the overall lead score. And at the end of the day, you need to have a marketing automation platform, because there is no way to kind of handle, capture, manage, track all these things manually. Just to be very straightforward, and concise. Now, I'm just sharing an example of a very simple lead journey. So what is in our lead journey? We have so-called conversion step, where we would advertise on different channels, on different social media, and we would be driving people to a landing page. Now, on such landing page, of course, we also have a form, for people that are interested in more information, to leave their contact details and then register, download, submit. Pretty much, engage, with some additional pieces of content. But then we also want to have the engagement step with at least 3 nurture mailers. So the first one that might speak a bit more about your company, the second one that might speak a bit more about the solution, the third one, which is about hard conversion, like maybe inviting them to, let's say, a mini workshop or a 10-minute call or something in this line, something that basically requires a bit higher level of commitment. And then, of course, we also need to have a qualification step. Now, coming back to my previous slide about marketing automation platform, yes, it's needed, because to some extent, you cannot orchestrate, you cannot run something like this manually. And look, this is not a luxury anymore. So today there are marketing automation platforms out there which you can actually start utilizing for maybe 10, 15 euros, dollars per month. So it's not something, that would require a fortune to implement. Now, how does then scoring come in? Now imagine that I would start translating all these actions that are on the slide in front of you into some points. Let's say that I actually assign 15 points to every lead that actually landed on our landing page and submitted the form, which basically, at the end of the day, I also captured their contact details such way. And then I would even check what they submitted in a form. And I would say, if they are in a managerial position, I'm going to add 10 additional points. And if this lead came from a LinkedIn ad, which tends to be a bit more accurate, a bit more targeted, then I'm going to add additional 5 points. And if they also browsed our webpage a bit and maybe visited more than 2 pages, then I'm going to add additional 5 points. But I don't want to stop here. And say, okay, this was just my conversion stage, or let's say phase of my activity. I also had the engagement. I have my nurture mailers. So I would actually add additional 5 points to everyone that opened an email. And then, of course, not just open, but also consume the email. And marketing automation tool can actually track that. And if they downloaded a customer case that I was sharing in my second email, I'm going to give extra 15 points. If they requested a call back, I'm going to add 35 points. And of course, if they did not engage for 2 weeks, I'm going to remove 10 points. Remember, I said there's a behavioral aspect of your scoring. So if people are not responding for, let's say, a bit longer time to our comms, they are obviously not that interested. So I'm going to remove some points from my scoring. So there's basically a bit of a decay. And if they requested a demo, if we are offering something like this, I'm going to add 40 points because that's a very strong conversion point. So at the end of the day, I'm going to accumulate all those points. And when I reach my qualification stage before I start passing leads to my colleagues from sales or tele follow-up department, I'm going to segment them a bit. Hey, you have this lead which has a score of 85, but then there's also a lead of score of 15, and there's a lead of score of 30. So at the end of the day, I'm going to set a threshold and say, look, guys, based on our mutual agreement and what you in sales value as, let's say, quality actions, we are going to draw the line at the score of 45 or 50. And all the leads that reach this score are going to be automatically, of course, with all the context of conversion, in a way passed to you. Now, for those leads that are below this threshold, we'll simply keep them in the nurturing stream and we'll basically email follow-up, which is something we can do at scale. We want to make sure that you're focusing only on those that are expressing the highest level of interest and maturity, so that you can really wisely utilize your time. Now, if this was a very simple representation, eventually this, let's say, when I was speaking about the scoring model, like and how the engine works, it's then translated in something like this. I don't want to scare you away with this slide, but the idea is that the engine is constantly rolling. It's constantly rolling. Why it's constantly rolling? Because if we actually send an email, a nurture email out yesterday, and there were some people that picked it up today, that's fine. But there might be some people that are super busy, they're going to pick it up in a week. And we want to make sure that the engine is constantly checking this. So maybe this week when we pass the leads to our sales team, we have 10 out of 100. But then next week we have 10 more because from the same batch, because there are some people that are simply a bit slower on email. But at the end of the day, they reach the same threshold. So it becomes a bit of an engine that is constantly rolling, and at the end of the day, there might be some leads that are going to pop up after a month because they are simply doing their catch up a bit slower. And at the end of the day, this is where I want to in a way wrap up, this second topic, which is about the scoring metrics. So eventually this boils down to pinning down, the most relevant activities in our lead journey. What are the most relevant activities? Those that are actually contributing to some extent, to this qualification of someone being a good lead. So if your sales team is saying, look, what we realized that all these people that actually requested a demo, or all these people that had an opportunity to check the customer case, or let's say the customer story, are much better fit for the discussion with us, then of course such activity should have the highest score. So eventually, you need to kind of build down a bit of a table. I mean, the table which says, okay, if somebody downloads an ebook, they get a score of 15. If somebody registered for the webcast, which requires a higher level of commitment, is not just a download and a couple of clicks, but they need to commit their time, half an hour of their time. Okay, then we need to make sure, that the score is much higher. Then it's the accumulation of the score and ongoing checks. And again, this is also why I need a tool, because tool will be to some extent spitting out those leads that are most fit, that are in a way reaching the threshold. So you even don't need to manually work on those. And then, this is just an example. In this case, sales follow-up threshold would be 40 points. If it's lower, it's still a marketing contact. If it's below 20, and it's below 20 for a month, so it's not changed, it has not changed for a month, we simply disqualify this lead. And again, all of this is done on a tool basis. Now, how does that look like in a tool? Just a quick one. So, that's not a rocket science. You pretty much define a set of activities that you want to score. You also define, what are the score? What are basically the scores for each and every activity? I blurred it a bit here because there were some customer-specific mentions in the activity, so I don't want to. I don't want to kind of share any PII. And at the end of the day, in your reporting, you basically start seeing how the scores are changing, which lead actually reached the score that is high enough, and which leads basically are not there yet. So at the end of the day, things become very transparent. And again, without it's data-based, there's no, I would say, subjective bias. Okay, now in the interest of time, I want to start wrapping up. And this basically brings me to my last point, which is actually very, very short. A bit of a sneak peek, because again, we are in the era of AI everywhere, how AI is boosting lead scoring. Now, very simply, if this has been, if this is a standard, let's say, or an example of a standard lead journey and today's scoring, AI is actually bringing a lot of advancements or enhancements to the scoring process. Now, how does that look like? Now, imagine, like that, the first step, conversion pretty much stays the same. We are driving ads, we are basically driving traffic to our landing pages, we are driving in a targeted way visitors, where we want to provide them with more information about our solution, about who we are. That pretty much stays the same. Now, where things change is here. And I'm going to explain it in a minute. Now, imagine that you have an AI agent which can basically check these demographic signals that people entered in their form, does a bit of a research on this particular individual, and then it basically says, hey, I see that John that converted a minute ago is actually a business manager. So what I need to make sure that this nurturing stream, so the series of emails I want to share with John, are considering his preferences. So I don't want to, I don't want to generalize it for him. I want John, who's also, I don't know, a dog person, because the AI agent can actually do a lot of research, and that's the benefit of AI. Can operate with a lot of data. It can do a bit of a background check on the lead, and then it customizes the communication from this point onwards. And then we can have Linda, and Linda is an IT manager, so the narrative of the, let's say, the follow-up communication should be a bit more technical, and so on and so on. So imagine, like that you can, with the usage of AI agent, you can make the follow-up interaction much more tailored. Even more, what AI agent can actually do, because if people also provided us, I don't know, their phone number or something, the AI agent can say, hey, we see that, I don't know, Linda is very active on LinkedIn. So maybe we should actually communicate with Linda through LinkedIn, not email. Or maybe we send a WhatsApp message or SMS or any other social outreaches. So eventually it enriches, like the contact data stack about the prospects, and it customizes all the interactions, or it kind of tailors, all the interactions from first conversion onwards, which adds a lot of value. Now, the last benefit is also the feedback loop back. So what does that mean? Of course, if things are properly connected with CRM, over time, the AI agent is going to say, hey, I'm seeing, like that all these tailored interactions that I triggered, that those that actually started with company introduction ended up with more conversions. So it's constantly learning about what works best. But again, for this feedback loop, we need to have marketing automation tool and CRM connected. That means, like that we will be able to kind of, that the agent will be learning, and at the end of the day, also improving the scoring over time. So I want to stop here, with this one. So there are a lot of benefits that AI is also bringing into scoring. The benefits that end up, in lead accuracy, improved scoring, constant improvement in scoring in the process, in interactions, in communication with the prospects. I will not go through everything because I see that we are already over the scheduled time. This is the first webcast that we try to squeeze in half an hour, so we are also learning a bit, in this respect. But yeah, I just want to kind of wrap up with this one. If you have an interest in further discussion on this topic, if you want to improve your engagement, and of course, scoring definitely improves your engagement, not just with prospects or leads, but also with your sales team, it kind of boils down to Marketing Performance 2025. Give us a shout, like win your scoring voucher. So for all of you that attended today's webcast, we are giving 25% discount. If, of course, like you are going to be among the first 3 that are going to reach out after the session, send an email to my colleague Sarang, and we'll have a discussion. Now, we'll start with a discussion because we need to understand first where you are, what you would like to achieve. And of course, we are also committing to improve your results for more than 20% from the start. If we see during our initial discussion that we cannot achieve that, we'll simply say, hey, we cannot help you with that, and we won't play poker, and try to figure out something, like we don't know or understand well. And at the end of the day, if everything is fine, if you're doing fine, check our ideas, resources at resources.consulta.si. There's a lot, from COP funds, how to utilize them, performance marketing, smarter advertising. So at the end of the day, you can actually get a lot of free insights there. Thank you very much for your time, for the attendance. I saw that there were also a couple of questions that our moderators already responded. If you have an additional question, send me an email, david.balazic@consulta.si. And I'm looking forward to meet you at any of our upcoming webcasts. We'll try to make them as short, as concise as possible, focused on only one topic, and we already have a bit of a roadmap for the next 2. So have a great rest of the day, and I do hope to talk to you very soon. Thank you very much.